Hi, my name is Joe Wilson, and I'm like the rest of these folks you see here with me. We're concerned about the rising cost of our local elections, costs that make it harder for average citizens to run for local office. That's why we've come together to form a citizens group. It's nonpartisan, nonprofit. It's a grassroots organization. It's called Greensboro Citizens for Clean Elections. We're advocating for a level playing field and increasing voter choice.
Greensboro Citizens for Clean Elections is calling on the City Council to pass a resolution in favor of giving Greensboro the option of implementing its own public financing program. Ultimately, the General Assembly must pass enabling legislation to give Greensboro the authority to use public financing, as they did in Chapel Hill. In 2008, the General Assembly granted Chapel Hill the authority to implement a public financing program for its 2009 and 2011 local elections. Currently, the Town Council is formulating a plan and will soon begin holding public hearings. The intent is to have a program in place for the 2009 elections. Chapel Hill's program will join other popular public financing programs in our state. 9 sitting members of North Carolina's Court of Appeals and State Supreme Court have won election as public finance candidates, including men, women, African Americans, whites, Republicans, and Democrats. In the 2008 election, the option of public financing will be available for 3 North Carolina Council of State races.
I am Dr. Joe Venable, and like my friend Joe Wilson, I'm also concerned about the rising cost of our local elections. In the last 2 elections in Greensboro, the candidate who raised the most money has won every race. In 2005, winning at-large city council candidates outraised their opponents by better than 2-to-1 margin. In 2007, at-large council winners raised about 70% more than their challengers. From 2001 to the present, 4 out of 5 incumbents in district races faced no competitors who raised enough to even file a campaign finance report. In 2007, the top fundraiser in a district race raised more than 4 times the salary of a Greensboro City Council member. And as a former City Council candidate, I'm very concerned about special interest groups funding the campaigns of select candidates. This practice can cause serious concerns about whether a candidate will represent the interests of the people of Greensboro or the interests of those who provided the funding.
I'm among a small but ever-increasing number of young people who are helping to shape their own future for the better by getting involved in the democratic process. I share the concerns of Mr. Wilson and the Reverend Dr. Venable about the ridiculously high costs of running for office, and for all prospective candidates, but for young candidates in particular. Having debated a run for county commissioner myself, I am struck by the degree to which the current state of privately financed elections virtually excludes people from fully participating in our democracy if they are not independently wealthy or do not rely on a network of wealthy donors or corporate interests.
And the thing I want you to think about is how many people are out there that are deserving to run for public office who feel like they can't field the campaign because of money. It's not support, it's not issues, it's money. This is the same thing. What we're having now is consummate fundraisers in lieu of leaders. I would prefer to have a person who's in touch with the issues rather than a person who can raise $100,000 for a local election. When you open a newspaper or a local weekly paper, or you ride down the street and you see your opposition, your opponent has a full-page ad and you can't afford an ad, you know, your word's not getting out. So you feel like you're behind the 8 ball from Jump Street if you don't have the necessary funding. If funding is a matter for you, if it's a problem, then you spend all your time trying to raise enough money to get your message out. And the time that you spend doing that takes away from people getting to know who you are and what you're about.
Just on the face of it, if you're a young person, you haven't had the time to build all the connections with the financiers that you need to be able to run an effective campaign and get your message out under the current system of privately financed elections. But if you have public financing and you can generate just enough support to get like small contributions from 100 or 200 people in your district, then you actually are able to get your message out, and people can make their own, the voters can make their own decisions.
Well, there are some who say it may entice candidates who weren't serious to run. I don't think they'll last very long on the campaign trail. But as for serious candidates, I believe it'll give them a level playing field. It'll make us able to get our messages out. I think I had a very good message to give to the people of Greensboro, and I don't believe I lost my campaign for lack of a message or lack of a platform, but I believe I lost for lack of funds to get that platform known throughout the city.
If you have public financing and everyone who is a viable candidate and who has raised a set amount of money to be eligible for the program has the opportunity to get their message out, then you're dealing with issues. You're not dealing with personalities. You're not dealing with media campaigns. You're dealing with a person who said, I will do this or I will not do that. I don't see it as welfare in any way, shape, or form. The amount of money it would cost the public per capita is negligible. I mean, it's less than you'd spend on your latte in the morning, a lot less.
While the General Assembly must give Greensboro the authority to use public financing, it is up to the city to set the parameters of a program. Greensboro will be able to determine qualifying guidelines, the amount of public financing, and decide where the money comes from. Greensboro Citizens for Clean Elections is ready for a change in our system. We're a broad and diverse group of individuals advocating for campaign finance alternatives. It's time for citizens to own elections, not special interests. It's time to restore public confidence in our democracy and to encourage civic participation.